Hello, my name is Benjamin Hart. I'm an American attorney and the Managing Director of Integrity Legal here in Bangkok, Thailand. As the title of this video suggests, we're discussing the IR-1 Immediate Relative Visa. Specifically, we're discussing this in the context that we deal with the most, which is spouses of American citizens processing out of Southeast Asia. Generally speaking, we deal with a lot of Thailand, although we deal with cases in Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, Vietnam, and Singapore as well on a rather frequent basis. An IR-1 visa allows the person who has it to enter the United States in immigrant status and be granted lawful permanent residence at the time of entry. Their initial I-551 stamp, which we have a video on specifically on this channel, their initial I-551 stamp acts as their temporary green card for the first year of their arrival. Thereafter, they're going to be issued with a 10-year green card, sort of in perpetuity. Unlike the conditional resident visa, the person who enters the United States in IR-1 status enters with unconditional lawful permanent residence, again, unlike the CR1. That being said, what we're specifically discussing with respect to the IR-1 in this particular video is documentation versus copies versus original documentation, which is sufficient. Well, the short answer to that question is it's going to depend on circumstances. Generally speaking, in routine cases, photocopies are going to be sufficient for documentation, although there are issues with respect to certification and authentication. I'll get into that in a moment. Again, in most cases, copies are going to be sufficient, but I do deal with a number of non-routine cases where, unfortunately, we do have to submit originals, and generally speaking, or I should say, original certifications oftentimes. Like, for example, court documentation pertaining to a prior criminal record. That type of documentation may be issued in copy format by a given court, but it's going to be issued with an original certification stamp certifying that document. For all intents and purposes, that document is an original. I'll get into photocopy documents and authentication here in a moment, but yeah, unfortunately, in certain non-routine matters, there are certain certificates and things that sometimes the adjudicating officer, either with the Department of Homeland Security or the Department of State, they simply just want to see originals. And for this reason, it's a very good idea to contact a legal professional with respect to one's given case if you really have a burning question on this issue, because quite frankly, it's very difficult to make a general statement on that topic without knowing the specifics of a given case. With respect to copies in a routine case, yes, certification and authentication is an issue. There are various ways to go ahead and certify that a copy is in fact genuine, which will be considered sufficient for purposes of processing through the Department of Homeland Security or the Department of State apparatus. Again, though, it's probably a good idea to contact a legal professional if you have a question on that, to go ahead and ascertain further information on exactly how that's going to play out as a practical matter.